No, we are in trouble, big trouble.
Well, I will tell you what we did the last time. So I was at the one yesterday, and it was really a couple people presented, but we also just had some conversation as well. And the only thing I would say is that um, the like the cameras and so forth, you might want to turn those off just because it is true when people. It's nice to see you all, by the way. I'm not turning my on because I'm still in my pajamas. Sorry, but but anyway, it's that kind of slows things down. But who would like to present first? Anybody? I'll just take a volunteer.
Hey,
Oh,
Sherman, I'll start first
Okay.
if no one wants to.
Okay. Who's that?
Uh,
Jackie?
this is Jackie.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
So I need to put my presentation up first, correct?
Yes. Yes. So just click the purple tab, and so it looks like a little piece of paper with an arrow on it.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
you can, and that's one thing about Collaborate. You can share your screen. You can share a particular Google tab. You can share, you can actually upload your document. I tend to not upload my document into Collaborate because I tend to use a variety of documents when I'm teaching.
Okay.
Sometimes I use Excel
Right.
spreadsheets. Sometimes I use PowerPoint. So I like to flip back and forth.
Can you see that?
Here it is. Yep, we can see it. Looks great.
real
Okay.
estate.
Yeah. Can you still see it? I just got it bigger.
Yep, nope, we can see it fine. You can put it in the probably in the slideshow. Um,
That's what I have it in. I have it in the slideshow.
okay, but I mean, click from the beginning so it shows it in the presentation mode.
Oh, okay. Let me go back out then.
No, you're fine.
I'm good? Okay.
Yeah. Click on that tab that says from the beginning.
Yeah, I think that's all you need.
That is the beginning.
Well, no,
Click
no,
on the
it'll
tab.
show it in a full presentation mode versus like right now it's in the editing mode, so we can see like we could edit if we wanted to. We can see all the smaller.
Okay, that's where I have it. Then I went then I go to the slideshow.
Hmm.
Then I went from the beginning, and then it's big for me.
Interesting. Do you have more than
Oh,
one? Do you have more than one screen?
No, I have one screen.
You only have one screen. Okay, so
Let me see something. Let me do something. Hold on.
I
Let me
meant
go
you
out of it.
on
Would it
your
open in a new tab?
No.
no so Jackie, when you so you just have one computer screen, right?
Yes.
Okay, so go back.
I'm all the way out.
Okay, so go back out. You already went out. So now when you
Mhm.
share content this time, share the actual screen that we're on and Collaborate. So when you click share content, um, pick share application and share the screen that we're on. So we should get the Inception look. I don't know if you guys, I call it Inception. That's what I tell my students. Do you know what I'm talking about? So it looks like you're there. You go. There you go. Now,
Okay. So
now,
that's what you want.
now, drag your PowerPoint over top of that, and then put it
Okay.
in presentation mode.
Alrighty.
And
Let
that
me see if I
should
can.
work. Let's.
Where is my presentation? It disappeared on me. Ah, I went completely out of it. Hold on. I got to pick it back up. Sorry. So you're gonna see a lot of stuff
Oh, that's fine.
in
That's
my
fine.
screen.
Yep. Go find it. There you go.
Ah,
There you go.
there we go.
There we go. Yep. And now you can click from the beginning, and it should. And
How's that?
yeah, don't record. Yeah, because I'm recording right now. Yep. There you go. That's perfect. Yahoo!
Perfect. Okay.
All right.
All right.
I'll shut off my mute.
Hi,
Let you
everyone.
talk. Okay.
Tell me when to start.
Go for it. Go for it.
Hi, everyone. Those who don't know me, my name is Jacqueline Lovelace, and I teach the real estate courses at Columbus State. I've been at Columbus State since 2013. I started as an adjunct, actually, and kind of worked my way up. I coordinate the real estate department also, but I really love the principal and practices class, so that's probably my favorite class. I teach the real estate law and appraisal, and also I have taught the finance classes. So I teach all the four classes that are needed to attain a pre-licensure certificate. So the students that I have are wanting to be real estate agents, they have to take the state exam. So I teach all those classes. The state exam consists of a lot of definitions and terms. So we try to mimic the exam that the students take for the state in our classroom. So we have a lot of quizzes, a lot of exams, and we do a lot of assignments just to kind of, so the students will be able to pass the test more efficiently. Because real estate has so many terms and definitions and keywords, we use a lot of methods for our students to attain, to retain those definitions. So I like to play games. I get bored lecturing. I bore myself. I'm sure I'm probably bore my students too. So I use games like Jeopardy, use a lot of Kahoot, fill in the blank, and this game that I use, which is called the Hot Seat. It is a learning keywords made easy. So it's similar to charades, but it's not somewhat backwards. The students in my class love the game, gives a break from lecturing, and it all gives a less formal feel in my classroom. I don't like formal. I use PowerPoint a lot, but I also like a lot of discussion, communication, open dialogue in my classroom. So I lecture for maybe 30 minutes, depends on how long the class is. In the summer, it's a little longer, so I may lecture for 45 minutes, and then we go and do a lot of more dialogue in my classroom. And in this game I call the Hot Seat, everyone gets the opportunity to play. So the Hot Seat game is, the goals for that game is to bring more life into the word or term, to how we remember those terms and how they relate to one another. For me, I have a hard time remembering people's names. And so if you give me a name and it's like my sister Donna, I remember my sister, and that your name reminds me of my sister. Or the guy who does my lawn care, his name is Mr. Green. So I remember green grass. So that's how the game kind of goes. This game also teaches students how to work as teams. In real estate, you need a team play. You need to be a team player. Everyone is trying to get a property closed. So you have to know how to work with people that may not be in your company or outside the company. So that's why I love to work in teams with my classes. For the instructor, the design to reveal what my students know. The Hot Seat's really good, so it helps me important terms to see what they don't know, so I can go back and lecture maybe on, get more definition, dig deeper into the concept for my students to know when we play the Hot Seat game. So the activity, the game, is I have my class, and I break them out into 2 to 3 teams, depends on how big my class is. And I hope I'm trying to give it that you can visualize this. And so I have a chair, put the chair in front, the chair is facing the student. So each student from each team gets to play. So the student goes into the hot seat. I use my projector and I put the word over their head, so the person who's sitting in the chair cannot see the word. It is projected over their head. So the students on their team give them the definition first. So they have to give the definition. Like the word I use, foreclosure. So the definition to foreclosure would be a lender is taking suit against a borrower who has defaulted on their loan. That is what a foreclosure is. So that's what the students have to give the definition first. If the student in the hot seat cannot figure out what that means, then they're able to use any means to have the student guess. So the word like foreclosure, a student may say, okay, what is the number after 3? So the word is 4. And then they may say, if I can open the door, I can actually close the door. They'll say, and the student said it's closed, so they say foreclosure. That makes them kind of remember, tie in foreclosure with the game 4, the number 4 in foreclosure. It really helps our students to learn that process in that game. Anybody have any questions so far? No?
I have a question for you, Jackie.
Sure.
Do you do you give the students the definition or the tips, or they just make them up? They do that as they go.
No, the definition they have to. I let them go into their books and find the definition, so they have the real definition.
So they just know the word that they're supposed to be trying to tip the other.
Well,
person.
I've already lectured over it.
Okay. Okay.
I've lectured over it, and usually the words that I'm using is before the game I usually play before we do our exam.
Okay.
So they've already gone over it once through lecture, through our teams. If we break out teams, and then we also then I do the game. But they may have heard that word 3 or 4 times before we even play that game.
Mm-hmm. So have you tried
so
this? Have you tried this online yet?
The activity, yes.
Okay.
I tried it. Kind of different.
Okay, go ahead. I'll shut up.
That's fine. It's kind of different than the game I play face to face. It's kind of backwards. It's kind of using it a little bit backwards. It's sort of the opposite. So each student is in the hot seat. So I use usually the class row, and so I usually go down the list. And the funny thing is, when I'm saying I'm going to replay hot seat, then you see students sign off, or they'll chat with me and say, "Hey, my audio's not working, or my video's not working, and I can't play today." But most students play because it's really a good way of learning the word or the term or the concept over and over again. So when they get the exam, it comes easy to them. So what I do is I give the instructor, I'm the instructor, so I give the definition first. And I give them a few minutes to try to find it in their book. I let them look in their book, so when they get to study, they'll remember where it's at in their book. So the first student on the row, they're in the hot seat. They get to guess first, or not, I hate the word guess, but they get to tell me what the word is. And then if they can't remember or don't know what the word is after I've given the definition, then the class can help that student out. I have a term, I say, no real estate student left behind. So we try to help each other. And then if they can't get it, then I use the example I use for the foreclosure, the term. So they do it that way. So it's kind of opposite, but I can play the game online. And any questions?
Great idea, Jackie. Anybody any questions for Jackie?
No questions, but I think it's an excellent exercise. Unfortunately, for those students who choose to duck out, maybe it's something that, they could view later, or at least, be able to discuss later during a class session.
Well, I tape all my sessions, so they get to see the game over again because I'm taping it.
Okay.
If they want to go back and look at the recordings.
Yeah, that's a great idea, and you could even think about. I could envision a way you could do that where you put them into groups and maybe have one person be the leader of that group and play the game in smaller groups. But I like the class and where they can give hints too for the person. So
my students love that class. They always ask, "Can we play that class?" I mean, they love it because it's and so they get to know those terms, but it's fun, and they do ask at the end, do the people who win, do they get, what do they win? And I always say, I always get class participation points.
Everybody wants prizes.
Everybody wants prizes, but they get 1 or 2 points for participation.
Right. Great, awesome. Yeah. So who would like to present next so we can keep us moving? Oh, go ahead, Tom, if you have a question. Thing. What?
Oh, I was just saying, I just kind of tell Jackie I like the charades idea.
Yeah.
Starting charades is kind of like backwards,
Right.
Here's the question. Yeah. What's the answer?
Yep.
So finding the answer, I like the idea. I've not really used it before. So.
Yep. So do I have
Okay.
a volunteer that'd like to present next?
Well, I can, Charla, it's LaSalle. I can go next.
Okay, go ahead. And just realize that we've got quite a few people in this group, so I don't know if we're going to get to everybody. So, but we'll try.
Okay.
Yeah.
Alrighty. Let's see.
So you can
everyone see this?
Not yet. No.
Yeah.
Not
Yeah.
yet. I'll
There
give
we
it a
go.
second.
Yep. Now we see you.
Strength
it is.
finders.
Yep. Go ahead. I'm going
This
offline.
may look familiar. Okay, this may look familiar to some of you. I'm LaSalle Jackson. I'm an instructor there in business management. Some of the classes I teach include the BMGT 1102, which is, interpersonal skills. And I've been with in the department since 2014, fall of 2014. The specific title of this assignment is called the Warning Label Class Activity. And the specific goal for this particular activity is to get students warmed up to the idea of talking about their strengths. And we do that by initially talking and spending some time talking about some things that, that aren't so great about ourselves, also known perhaps as weaknesses. So what I'm going to do now is kind of move forward into the next slide. For this particular course, the students are required to complete a total of 3 assessments. One of those assessments is called Strengths Finder. And what they do, they complete the assessment and they end up with a total of 5 strengths that rise to the top. And so all students end up with a total of, their top 5 strengths. And so basically what I did as a bridge to begin discussions about what do we do about our weaknesses, I developed this warning label activity. And this will provide the students an opportunity to discuss their weaknesses and then be able to use their assessment results as a bridge to overcome in those areas. All right, oops, went too far, sorry guys. All right, so basically the first thing that I talk about with the students is, get a sheet of paper out. And for those individuals who, would prefer to use like the huge sticky sheets of paper, sometimes I'll have them do that. But what they're to do from this point is to develop what would be known as a warning label for themselves. What would your warning label say about you? So to get students in this particular mindset, they are to think about things or individuals or circumstances in which they were irritated or which, for some reason they were, acting outside of themselves, or maybe it could be a pet peeve or anything that they feel that, is more of a limitation to themselves. So it's really interesting because, during the class discussions, this really gets to students talking about, I remember a time when someone cut me off in traffic, or, my mother-in-law got on my last nerves and she always says this. And, so it really gets them revved up. Even those individuals in the classroom who are more quiet or they're perhaps more introverted, they too also jump into this, because we can all think of times where, for whatever reason, we were thrown off kilter. So that's what I really like about this particular activity. Some of the examples over the course of teaching this particular class, some of the examples that we tend to see or hear from the students would be that they overanalyze, it's time for them to complete an assignment. And they're overanalyzing the project, or, the to-dos basically, or overanalyzing a perceived conflict within their group or team. Another would be public speaking. It's your turn to speak, so it's time to get up front and talk about, that Strengths Finder individual presentation they have to do, whereas they're discussing 2 of their strengths and they're, providing support and evidence for how they use those strengths. So, some students really, they wait until the very umpteenth hour to get up front to complete those assignments. The other would be procrastination. I think even, not only the students, but I think as an instructor, I'll speak for myself. Sometimes I battle with this myself, but this is, again, something we can all relate to. As you notice there in the image, a mystical land where 99% of all human productivity, motivation, achievement is stored. So it's somewhere other than right now. So, students do talk about having an issue with procrastination. The other is being a poor writer, and sometimes it's more written communication versus verbal communication. So turning in that assignment with typos or errors or grammatical, downfalls and whatnot. All right. One of the others, additional one, would be time management or actually being impatient. Some students complain, I'm impatient, or, I'm having a really hard time with my time management skills. And then last but not least, another example that I often hear would be those individuals who are self-critical. Not only are they critical towards themselves, but they're also critical towards others. Real big problem with that. So in looking at all three of these, all six of these examples, these can be perceived as what's known as weaknesses. So then how do we use the strengths that we learn about? How do we take those particular top 5 strengths that we end up with, and how could we use at least one or two of those to overcome in these particular areas? All right, so with StrengthsFinder, there are 4 separate domains in which strengths may fall into, 4 different domain categories. And there are a total of 34 strengths, but for the sake of this particular activity, we're just focusing on a select few. But within those 4 domains, they include strategic, executing, influencing, relationship building. So just for the sake of, for procrastination, if we were to look within those 4 domains, which of those strengths could we use to help us with, our specific procrastination, area or weakness or whatnot. So futuristic is one. What does this assignment look like in the future when we're done? What can we do to make sure that we're not so stressed out in the future? What can we do now to ease the stress and worry of getting something done? And several under the executing domain would include discipline and focus and responsibility. Some of these strengths are strengths that more students have than not. So even if, one of the categories does not include a strength that they have, they should then look at the strengths they do have and see if they could work those strengths to, deal with their procrastination issues or whatnot. And same goes for public speaking. 2 specific domains directly affected would be the influencing domain, input, making sure that, you have all the information that you need, making sure that, you're well equipped, well prepared. The other would be relationship building, including the includer. Who else can I include to help me improve in this area? Also developer, even if I see someone else with a similar issue, how can we come together to talk about how to overcome in this particular area? So this is a great exercise, again, to help students, get that, that brief conversation about weaknesses, because of course, StrengthsFinder is all about focusing on what you're good at, the good stuff, the strengths. Let's look at these, let's focus on these. But as a bridge to just, initiate the conversation, we do spend time talking about these things. And then I give students an opportunity to actually, take a look at the strengths they do have, all right, and see if those strengths could possibly be a solution to some of the issues that they're having, some of those weak areas and so forth. Okay, and that's pretty much it. Are there any questions regarding this activity?
Anybody questions?
I like the graphics.
Yep, very nice.
Thanks, Tom. Thanks.
Pictures are
Yep.
good. Yeah, and I would just say, think about, I know not everybody teaches 1102 or has that type of content, but what you want to do with these types of activities is think about some area of content in your classes that might adapt to this type of thing.
Absolutely.
So I was thinking about, for example, in a management class, where we maybe have the elements of decision making, and you might
Mm-hmm.
talk to students and think about what particular element of decision making is easiest for them, and then have them
Mm-hmm.
discuss why, or what is the hardest, because you, as
Mm-hmm.
your warning label goes, LaSalle. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yep.
Or it could be caution label. It could be you could provide that any name.
Mm-hmm.
But the activity itself absolutely is transferable to other courses.
Yep.
This is a low stake activity. Of course, there are participation points that can be attached to it. There's also a format in which you could just simply have a worksheet. And you provide students with a worksheet, and then you build your discussions around that.
Yep.
And so on and so forth. It could be conducted whether it's an online student or whether it's a virtual student. We could still do that within the breakout groups, or it could be like a moment for lecture and so forth. But overall, it's a great springboard to help jumpstart those conversations. And students really, 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 really enjoy this one because I have to cut them off basically. So so that we can move on to other things, right? So
Yep.
it's an
Great.
enjoyable.
Yep. Great.
So that's it.
Awesome. Well, thank you, LaSalle.
You're welcome.
Yep, definitely. Who would like to present next?
I can do mine, Charlotte.
Okay, go ahead, Tom. And as I said before, let's everybody keep in mind time so we can try to get through everybody here, hopefully. I think John gives us maybe 20 more minutes. I'm not sure. Did he say what time we were supposed to go back? I don't think he did.
Yeah, he said about 15 more minutes.
Yeah, 15 minutes.
15 minutes, okay.
Yeah.
So give us the abbreviated version, Tom.
Okay. Quick and dirty.
Okay.
Slideshow from the beginning. Okay, that's me, Business Programs Department, and I'm going to talk about something almost very relevant to business students. Not
Now
sure
we
it
can't
applies
see
to
your
real
we
estate.
can't see your slide program.
Oh, you can't?
Nope.
Oh,
Nope.
well, let's try this again.
Did you share your screen?
Oh, let's see.
I think this is
Share
great.
application. Why does it not share?
Are you in Google Chrome?
Yep.
Oh, you are. Okay.
Share application. Right?
Yeah. That's if you've got PowerPoint open. That's one way.
Yeah. Oh, I'll go to the Chrome tab. Maybe we'll use that. Nope. Application window.
Or just share the window that we're in, and then drag your PowerPoint over top, like Jackie did.
I don't know that that's working, dear. See anything yet?
Oh, it's coming. Okay, now we can see
Okay.
now we can see the inception.
All right.
So
Let's see if this works.
open up your PowerPoint over there. Yeah. This is I think this is great to just keep people familiar with this new technology that it's all going to take us a while, to kind of get through using Collaborate since it's all new. So.
Can you see that now?
Yep, you're all good from the beginning.
Okay.
Yep, definitely.
Let's try.
All right.
Anyway, as I was talking to myself, that's me, Business Programs Department. I'm going to talk about some information that's primarily focused on a business application about accounting and financial information. And kind of the way I started with this was when we started transitioning to more application type classes as opposed to lecture type classes. I kind of got away from lecture. And so most everything we do in class is application. So financial statements activity, the one I'm going to be talking about, has to do with income statements, balance sheets, and ratios. A couple of things that we want to accomplish is to identify some differences that students seem to struggle with common business financial statements, and to calculate and how to use some of these common business ratios. So that's what we're trying to accomplish. The activity actually has two parts: the income statement, the balance sheet, and ratios. Now you're not going to see, it's not going to show you this. Can you see this financial statements thing?
We can see it now. Yes.
Okay.
You might make it
So
bigger.
oh, okay. How about that?
Just yeah. There. One more maybe, and
That
that's
good?
good. Yeah.
That good?
There you go. That's better.
Okay.
That's better.
Well, actually, the activity works like this. That's the learning objectives, and I break them into groups, and so you need 20 note cards with one entry for each uh, set. And if you have 4 teams, you need 4 sets of these 20 note cards. It has income statement information on it, it has balance sheet information on it, and I also remind them if they haven't worked in teams before, here are some things that they need to think about. Who's going to collect the information, who's going to be the recorder, who's going to verify accuracy, who's going to report the class results. So if you're in a classroom, it's pretty easy to do that. You send them off to different corners of the room, collaborate, break them off into teams. That works pretty good too. The note card information, the 20 note cards, has this information on it. So this is what they see. These are the note card decks. That's the master. Let me get down to the worksheet that I give them for the income statement. Looks like this, and that information on the all those 20 note cards, they can fill in the blanks and or calculate some of the information. For example, I might give them revenue, I might give them sales, I might give them net sales. They have to configure the discounts. So they have enough information to complete the entire net income to arrive at the net income. Now, once they've got that, then they can report back to the group. And if they want to do just part A, this is just part A, in one class meeting or one class period, you can. Then if you want to go to part B, you can do that at another time, or you can do it in the same class meeting. I find that it works probably better to kind of break it up a little bit. So the balance sheet and the ratio statement worksheet works essentially the same way. That's the master. This is the worksheet that they get, and they have to fill in the blanks. Now, there's information on that set of 20 note cards that will allow them to do that, or they have to pull information from the income statement to add to the balance sheet. And so they're trying to complete this balance sheet. Now, once they've done that, then we can get into the second part of part B, and that is to complete the 4 ratios. These 4 ratios they have to complete. Now that they've got a balance sheet and an income statement, they can do that, complete these ratios. The last part of the activity is, again, if I've broken them out, I break them out into groups, but now we come back together and each team will address one of these 4 questions. If you have more than 4 teams, you can have more questions if you want. So that's how that works. And so they share that information with the entire group. All right, can you see my PowerPoint again?
Yep, we can.
Okay, so the assessment is a formative assessment. Usually, it has to do with participation points, so it's kind of part of the class. If you want to, you can give them extra credit points for the first team to come up with a complete part A and part B. So you can have some flexibility there. You can use it either collaboratively, as we did in the second half of last semester, if you're meeting online, or you can do it as a learning unit team assignment for the web classes. We have learning units for 1102, and this comes in one of the learning units. And so that's the activity. And the reason I started using this is because I found students really struggling with their writing assignments when they had to do calculations for ratios and determine the value and what information those ratios provide to do an analysis. And so what I find is that once they understand how this information kind of works together and how it flows, what it means for the ratios and what those mean, they do a much better job on their writing assignments. So that's the activity.
Yay, great job.
Questions?
Yeah. Anybody questions for Tom? Great activity. I think that definitely you can extrapolate that to a lot of different types of those classes that we have math in, like project management, Christine, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Well, the idea is that to kind of like Roger was talking about, you want to give them some low stakes activity that they can work on prior to having to do the assignment or having to use that information in something that's more important later on, such as the writing assignment.
Yep.
That's a big deal.
Yep,
So,
definitely. So we have Tammy and Christine left. Which one you guys want to jump in and present?
I can go.
Okay, go ahead, Christine.
So mine was a little bit more informal.
Okay. No, that's fine.
So Christine Duvall, I've been with Columbus State since 2013. I teach BMGT 2250, so the project management course. And for me, communication for project management is about 90% of what we do. So one piece that I incorporated this past year was utilizing Remind. So Remind, for me, allows me to communicate with the students, remind them of what upcoming assignments we have, because I was finding, even if I would post announcements, I would have students say, oh, I missed the test, or I missed all, because this is an accelerated course, they were having a hard time keeping up with some of the assignments. So I found by communicating with them through Remind, they could text me back and we could have a dialogue. And then there were times when I have to jump on and actually have a virtual session with them, because this course I teach is online. But I have taught face-to-face, and one of those elements that we teach is a work breakdown structure. So work breakdown structure is a scoping mechanism, is a scoping tool that if you were face-to-face with the students, you basically give them Post-it notes, and it's a real fun, interactive activity. I traditionally do a vacation or a wedding, and we scope out that assignment. So they get Post-it notes, they're writing down the nouns that is part of the scope, and then it's fun, it's interactive. And I just kind of fire away. They throw out a word, I'm like, write it down. And then so I'm actively engaging them, and it's a really fun and easy way for them to take the concepts and say, wow, I could apply this to anything. If I have a project, whether it be a birthday, or if I was in a work setting, how could I utilize this tool? But when you flip that activity online, it becomes a little bit more interesting. So utilizing SmartArt, either within PowerPoint or Word, I can do the same type of activity, and we can quickly do a work breakdown structure through SmartArt, same concept where I'm saying, okay, if we're doing a vacation and we've mapped this out, okay, fire away, give me the scope or the noun that we're trying to accomplish for this vacation. So they will fire away, and I'm then typing real time what they're saying. And I record all of my sessions with them, so then they can go back and reference what we did, because these assignments go hand in hand with the assignments for the course. So I time them so that way if we're doing the work breakdown structure, we're doing it ahead of when the assignment is due. And I post that so students can go back and reference it. Or after grading the assignment, if they've missed some things, I tell them, okay, go back and refer, because I think that gives it a little bit more application as opposed to just reading it in the textbook. So it's real world examples that they can tangibly use, whether it's in the classroom with physical Post-it notes or whether it's utilizing SmartArt virtually.
Awesome, Christine. That sounds great. I don't know if any of the other anybody else has tried to use Remind or not, but of course you and I have talked about it before, and I love that app with students.
Yep.
And I love your idea with the SmartArt for the WBS. That's awesome. Great idea.
Yeah, and I have found lots of students don't know about SmartArt, and so it's even a learning opportunity to how to access it. And that way it also makes the assignments, when they turn them in, they're clean, they're crisp, and they've learned something new in addition to the assignment.
Yep, definitely. Yeah, because especially in project management, there's a lot of kind of like visual type drawing things they have to do, like
Yeah.
charts and so forth. Yeah, yeah, definitely. Anybody any questions for Christine? You guys are a non-questioning group, obviously.
Yeah. One of the things one of the things I thought is kind of interesting is all the presentations have to do with, it sounds like, low stakes,
Yep.
prior to the bigger assessments, kind of preparatory, application based,
Yep.
that sort of thing, practice.
Yep, exactly. Well, and
Very important.
studies show that just if you can find ways, and it's definitely more difficult with this online format that we're going to be doing in the fall with virtual. But if you can find ways to get students to collaborate, they're going to learn much more than they would in isolation. So it's just a challenge for us as instructors to facilitate that process. So Tammy, do you have a presentation for us?
No, I don't have a presentation. Mine's kind of informal
Okay,
also.
yep, go for it then. Go for it.
That's
perfect.
My name's Tammy Curry, and I'm in the BLA department. And I mostly have been teaching Excel recently. I have taught some of the other Microsoft Office also. So in Excel, what I'm using is kind of taking the discussion board topics and making them a participation type event or activity. And one of the things that we do is personal uses. What can we use Excel for in our personal life? Because we talk a lot about what it's used for in business, but we never talk about how it can help your personal life. And like some of the things that come up frequently are personal budgets, party planning, home projects, those kind of things. We discuss them, and then it sparks interest in somebody else that thinks, wow, I didn't even know it could be used for that. So then it gets more discussion going. Then we compile a list so that everybody has ideas of the different things that it can be used for. Then we take it a step further and say what helpful websites are out there that can help us if we're trying to do a web or a Excel document. And how can I do a formula? Maybe I don't know how to do a formula. So we find those websites and we ask what drew you to that website. So I have them looking for these websites ahead of class time. And then we compile a listing of that too. So everyone has those resources once they leave class, because our class is mostly in a software-based environment. So we have it's called Cirrus software. So most of their work is done in that software program. So recently I have come up with another project that I just learned about, an idea, and it's in the development of maybe doing a scavenger hunt of how they find all the different tools that are in Cirrus and how to work Cirrus so that it's not frustrating to them. Because I'm finding a lot of my new students, like brand new students, are having trouble getting around in the Cirrus software. So I'm going to come up with some kind of a scavenger hunt, but that's in development right now. Constantly thinking how to make it more interactive, because I have a lot of times where students are just sitting and listening and no participation. It's like stone faces. I can't even figure out what they're thinking sometimes. So it's very low stake. Strictly give them class participation points for them participating with it. And that's really all I have if there's any questions.
That's great. Anybody got questions for Tammy? I was just going to say, I think the scavenger hunt idea is really awesome idea, as well as the discussion boards. I think one of the things that we do a really good job of, which is excellent, is to make sure students have the tools that they need so that the technology, or for example Blackboard, the setup doesn't get in the way of learning. And that's a big thing for me. I don't want their internet connection, their lack of a laptop, or the fact that they can't find something on Blackboard or know how to use, as you mentioned, the software or Connect or whatever. If we don't want that to get in the way of the learning. That should be not the reason why they fail the class or not do well in the class.
Right.
So
Right.
that's excellent. Yeah, definitely very true. Well, I don't know if John's going to call us back. I'll go ahead and just share something with you. I also don't have a a presentation per se, but I wanted to show you a little tip. Back to Inception. Here we go. One of the things that I had the luxury of doing this past. Can you guys see? It says recap for the week at the top.
Yes.
Okay, cool. So one of the things that I had the luxury of doing over the past couple weeks was to review a lot of online classes for the college, not just in business programs, but I looked at science classes, psychology classes, a lot of different classes. And one of the things that really struck me was announcements. So this recap for the week is an announcement, as you can see in my capstone class, and I just wanted to show you a couple examples. I think that announcements, particularly as we teach online in the virtual format, are so critical because the most important thing that we can do is to communicate, as Christine was talking about, in a really succinct way and also create some sense of social presence. You know, the thing that makes, for example, MOOCs and a lot of online classes not successful is because the students don't have a connection with either other students or with you as the faculty member. And so it's really important to try to create that presence. So what I noticed in the classes that I reviewed was that their announcements were like 4 pages long of text, like reading after reading after reading. And I'm like, there is no way students are going to read all that. So what I have really worked hard on is to make announcements that are more succinct with bullet points of what the students have to do, you know, highlighting text. But I think even more critical is a video announcement. Taking
Agree.
the what's that, Tom?
I said I agree.
Yeah, taking a few moments. It doesn't have to be long. In fact, it shouldn't be long. And so what I'll do is recap what's coming up for the week, and then I'll also make a video announcement where I talk about that just for a few minutes, going through each area to discuss with students so that they can hear my voice, so that they can, you know, get a little more explanation than the bullet points. And so I found that a lot of faculty don't know that you can do announcements as videos. And so really all you have to do is when you're going to create a new announcement, if you go up here to create, you'll see under the mashup Kaltura Media. So if you make your short video in Kaltura Media, once it's rendered, you can just pick it up right here. And if you don't see Kaltura Media here, the problem is that it's probably not in your customization under tools. So you would need to go to the tools area under tool availability and make sure all the boxes are checked open for Kaltura Media, and then you'll be able to do videos and announcements. But so that's one example of how I do announcements. And another one that I've also done, let me close this out real quick here, is a lot of times the first day of class, I'll do a video announcement of myself with a little PowerPoint just talking through, you know, who I am, what this class is about. And again, I think it's a great way to, you know, get students engaged in the class from the very beginning and get them started. So that's my 2 cents, basically.
Yeah,
Charlotte.
that's a great idea. And what I found is if you can find a way to do audio feedback, and
Yep.
there are lots of ways, but if you can do audio feedback for assignments,
Yep.
they like that better than just the text.
Yep, I agree. Well, go ahead.
Charlotte, you said the app. What was the name of the app? Because I'm on my phone trying to find it.
It's
For,
called, for the
Reminder?
Remind, it's Remind 101, although I think they just changed their name to just Remind.
It's called School Communication Remind 101.
Right. And it's free
Okay.
up to a certain number of classes. And the great thing about it that I like, so for example, tomorrow I have several assignments due, so I can pre-set up. So I set up for tomorrow at I usually do 12:30 or 5:30, times that I think people will be taking breaks and maybe check their phone. And I'll set up a time at 12:30 for tomorrow, and it'll say, don't forget assignment 3 is due by midnight tonight or 11:59 tonight. And so again, it's just really, really short. But a great way to communicate, and then students can also text you back I had actually a student texting me this morning, for example. And like Christine said, you can have a great dialogue with them. Now, obviously, if you're trying to explain a ratio analysis or something complicated, that's probably not the best format. And I'll tell them that, well, I think we need to get into an email or meet virtually online to talk about this. So you have to realize that it's not the best forum for certain types of communication. But it works really well. Yeah, it works really well.
So do you ask your students to give you their their text numbers, their phone numbers,
so,
or you just get it off?
So there's 3 ways that students can sign up. They can take their phone and they can text a certain phone number with the identifier for that particular course. You can provide them with a link, and they can click the link, or the third thing is you can enter their phone number for them. I've had students do all 3. I offer all 3, and if a student has trouble, I'm like, oh, send me your phone number, and I'll add you. Now, I have had a student or 2 say they didn't want to do that, and the only class I really require it in is the capstone, because we do a lot of teamwork, and so it's really important to have that communication. But in the other classes, I just tell them, okay, well, that's fine, but you might be missing out on some communication. So I do duplicate, so I still will put announcements about everything, but the remind is just a little shorter, more direct way. And I've had many students say, oh, thank God for your reminder, I would have missed that test yesterday. So I've had students tell me that. And I've seen improvement. Yeah, go ahead.
No, I was going to say I was going to use it. That's what I'm going to use. Thank you. What were you going to say, Charlotte? I don't want to miss any of this.
Oh, no. I was just going to say that I've just found it. I found that it's improved my completion of assignments. Like tests. I don't have nearly as many problems, and I started using it several years ago. I don't nearly have as many problems with students like 2-in-days. Oh, I totally forgot the test, or I didn't realize it, or I don't have very much of that anymore. Very rarely. So
awesome.
All right, everybody. We're going to get back to the main group at this point in time.
Sounds perfect. We're ready.